Hello. You might notice I'm wearing the same shirt I did the other recording. I think I had a clean shirt. I just thought it would be funnier to wear this one again. Happy chest. Um, so thank you for sending me this game. We're going to start out with what's called the center fork trick. And we'll check that out in a version of the Ruy Lopez. So the Ruy Lopez looks like this. And then the bishop kind of comes out like that. This is kind of the defining structure of the Ruy Lopez, and there are a lot of places that I can go from here, like a lot. But let's assume black goes here. And this is the center fork trick, where white's going to go ahead, take that pawn. And it looks like black just kind of gets a free knight out of this. Go away. Kind of looks like black just gets a free knight out of this. But we have a tactic. And the tactic is, what we're looking for is when you have two pieces which are one square apart. You know, you've got this one square in the middle here. And they are on that kind of like horizontal line. And what you want to look for is this, which is when those two squares are apart. Those are the squares that a pawn can attack at the same time. So let's assume, you know, black takes, white takes. The idea is that pawn usually has to be protected, especially when a bishop is one of those pieces. If it was a knight, you wouldn't have to protect the pawn. But in the case of a bishop, you have to protect the pawn. So that is the center fork trick. And that is the tactic that we will be looking for today. No spoilers. So you're playing with white. And you start e4, e5, knight f3. He does that thing, which I told you not to do. There actually is a pretty cool opening trap in here. Let's see if I can do it. Where am I doing this right? Yeah, there's a pretty cool opening trap. This is known as Legal's mate, where if you play this pawn structure is when it usually happens out of. But it looks like this. And you're like, oh, free queen. And then you go check, only move, and checkmate. So you've got this knight guarding these two squares. You've got this bishop guarding these two squares. And lastly, you've got this knight guarding these two squares. So that's just something that can happen out of that pawn structure sometimes. Everyone really loves it because you sacrifice your queen to get checkmate. How can you not love that? You weren't going to know about that. That's okay. What's important is you move your knight out. And I love that. Did they really move that? One sec. There's no way they moved that. Stop that. What's important is you moved your knights out first, which I really appreciate. Excellent decision. You're like, I'm not going to block my bishops in quite yet. This is fine. Usually the idea behind this is you want to bring this bishop out like that. And then it'll come across on this diagonal here. And it will kind of line up with that rook. So, oh my gosh. This is something that you'll see people doing as you get higher up on the ladder, is they're aiming for pieces, even if they can't, so to speak, see them yet. So let's say, you know, hypothetically, you go here, and then black goes here, and I don't know, something happens here. Let's just assume there's a trade, and this happens, and then go here. Then this bishop comes away, and then this knight goes back or whatever. And then this happens, and then you get this idea of the piece lining up. So like that piece that was looking at it, and apparently there's a refutation probably like here, but we're not going to talk about that. This is that idea of like the pieces lined up with each other. Like it was looking at that rook the whole time. And it's just like after all the stuff in the middle went away, you didn't have to make any extra moves to make an attack. And this is something that you kind of don't do in your games currently. A lot of lower elo players, no offense, will play games where it's like you just make like a one move attack, which is not ideal. So let's say like I don't know, where can we make an easy one move attack? Let's say it's black's turn. Oh, it's white's turn. Let's say it's like white's turn and this pawn doesn't exist or something. That's a bad example. Oh, better idea. Here, we're gonna go. Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. You can go here, and then we'll go here. Okay, ignore everything I said first. Okay, so let's assume we're in this position and it's white to move. You might want to just say like, oh, you know, like it's guarded by the bishop, and it's attacking the bishop, and it's attacking the other bishop. And you say like, oh, well, I'm making like a threat. You know, I like this move because I'm making a threat on this bishop. But the problem is this bishop can just kind of go wherever it wants, and you're not actually making any kind of threat at all because it can just be responded to. This is kind of like the way beginners will make plans. There's a watermelon seed on me. This is how like beginners will make plans. Is they see that there's a piece that they can attack, and so they make a threat on it. You're like, oh, if I move my knight here, I can make a threat on the bishop, and maybe they won't see it. But that's not how you want to be thinking necessarily, because you have to assume your opponent's going to see that. So it's better to have these kind of like these hypothetical moves where these hypothetical moves where it's like maybe in a few turns this will all clear up. And the reasons that's better is because usually when these things clear up, when all of this center clears out, other stuff is happening. And it's not so much that like you're counting on them not seeing that it cleared out, but you are usually as it's clearing out, there's something else that they have to respond to. So it's not like you're hoping they won't see it. It's more like you're hoping to overwhelm them with all the stuff that's happening. Like, yes, they see it, but they have to manage their threats. And maybe they'll have time to save their rook, but another piece will be hanging. And so it's like you're creating chaos for them to deal with when you make these moves, like lining up this bishop with this rook, even though there's like 5 pieces in the way at the moment. Is you're trying to create future problems for them. Okay, what did you do here? They went bishop there. Pawn up, fine. Take, love it. Okay, you took here. I would have been more interested to take with the knight, and the reason I would be interested in taking with the knight is because they pretty much have to take this back with the pawn, right? Like they're not going to just like, I mean, they could like just move their queen, but they're not going to because they can take the knight. And when they take the knight, you're going to create what's called a weakness. And the weakness, I've talked about this square before, is this f7 square. So let's say, for example, this takes. You can actually come out here and like start giving checks. And in this instance, you know, like they might come out here, but who's to say? You doesn't like that. Oh, you could have just taken. Sorry, I'm a little disorganized. The point is that like this. I talked earlier about like creating trouble for your opponent by overwhelming them with the amount of things that they had to handle at once. And when you line up your pieces, you're creating this potential that they will have to deal with multiple things at once, and eventually something's going to crack. When someone's king is able to be checked, you are also giving things which are possibly going to cause chaos. And you're also giving them things which they're forced to react to, and you're hoping to overwhelm them with the amount of things. So while this particular check doesn't necessarily do anything, you know, it still is, yes, I'm still here. it still is, so to speak, problematic for them in the terms of like their king has weaknesses, and you don't want to create weakness. I don't know if I'm doing a great job of explaining that, but the idea is that when the king can be checked, it's another way to expose your opponent to problems that they won't be able to deal with in the long run. That's a good way of saying it. In this particular instance, you don't have to go all the way out here to check. You can just take the pawn. And a lot of like beginners really don't like taking that pawn with the queen, because they're like, well, they're just going to take my queen and the queens will be off the board, and that makes me sad. But the reason it's good is because it's still a pawn. Like in this position, in this position, the material is equal, and in this position, you have a pawn. And like that doesn't seem like much, and in reality, that's not going to win you the game. But what is going to win you the game is the mentality of, that's a winning trade, I should take that. I know for me, I was really hesitant to trade pieces which like I liked. I'm like, oh, I like my queen. I don't want to trade my queen. I feel like I can do more damage to my opponent if I have my queen. But you can truly, when you can do more damage to your opponent is when you can make, is when you have more material, I guess. There's no other way of saying it. Like you can do the most damage to your opponent when you have more material on them, or when you have like a really strong check. We won't go into that. Also in this position, there is a trick in here that white is threatening. White has a threat in this position. And if you remember from one of the other videos, there's this knight on the 5th rank. That's this. Oh my gosh, I'll just do it this way. Come on. Really not going to work with me? Really? Okay, I'll highlight all the squares. Cool. You have the knight on the 5th rank. This is the 1st rank into your opponent's territory. And the threat here is, looks very familiar. Give me an arrow. This, because you threaten this. Oh my gosh. Once I get a mouse, I'm going to be unstoppable, dude. Stop. You know it's an error. You know the knight. Okay, perfect. Knight on the 5th rank, automatic win. Because there are these tactics that emerge. And because you're getting into your opponent's territory. And so there's probably a couple of things they can do in this position, like maybe they just go back with the bishop or something, or up with the bishop, or even come here with the knight, or here with the king. But you're giving them problems, and you want to give them problems because it's fun to give your opponent problems. Anyway, that was a lot out of a position which never happened. You took, I think you should have taken the bishop, given him, so to speak, more problems. Take, okay. So yeah, so you push the pawn up, which was good. This is a good move to see, because it opens up a lot of your pieces in a way that I'm very happy you're doing, and you're not falling for that beginner trap of like, oh, this is a bad move because it can be taken. Like, yes, it can be taken, but also you can take it back. And it's good for you to be able to see that, because that's not so easy to see as a beginner anyway. I'm sure Magnus Carlsen doesn't have a problem with that. Take. It all took down. Take. In this position, I started looking for some sort of discovered attack. So, for example, because remember these discovered attacks. Stop that. Okay, you know the queen is pointing up. There we go. Because the queen's looking at the other queen through this knight, I'm starting to think like, is there a place where I can move my knight, which is going to cause problems for my opponent? And there's none immediately, but for example, like if we had this position, suddenly there is a way, which is, oh no, there's not a way. That sucks. Let's see, what about this position? Is that different? No. Anyway, I was trying to find a way to move my knight here to check the king. We're just gonna do it for hypothetical sake. We're gonna say, whose turn is it? Oh, right, I have to go here. We're gonna say, like, hypothetically, the king's over here, and the knight goes here, and then you're like, oh no, it was discovered. I gave a check with the knight, and for whatever reason, I'm not gonna say that with my queen. I'm gonna just like move my knight back. The queen takes. The idea being, it doesn't work in that position whatsoever. But the idea is that once we see these queens looking at each other, we start thinking about, like, how can I move that knight in a way which is going to cause problems for my opponent? Because if I can move that knight in a way which causes problems for my opponent, then I'm going to overload them again. These pieces are lined up, and when the pieces clear out, we're going to cause problems for the opponent. I like what you did here. This is actually lining up very nicely. And hypothetically, we really could reach a position which I talked about earlier. I kind of forget if that happens in this game. Bishop comes out. Yeah, I'm a little bit sad about that, just because of, like, it blocks off this diagonal, but it is the move which simply makes the most sense. So goes there, goes there. Why would you do this? We specifically talked about that. We talked about that because of this move. And this is just super easy to defend. Why are you doing this? Check is fun. We know check is fun, but there's no threat there. There's simply not a threat. You go here, and what's worse, your opponent had a really good move here, which they didn't see. What they do? They went here. Bishops are by far the easiest piece to trap, and trapping a piece means you've put it in such a position where all of its moves it's able to be taken. It's like it's currently able to be taken, and all of its potential moves are able to be taken. It's like checkmate, but for like a piece. And bishops are the easiest pieces to trap. And they're the easiest pieces to trap because when you get them on the side of the board, they only have two places they can go. They can go out this way. Stop that. They can give me an arrow. They can go out this way, and they can go out this way. They can go out. Oh my boy. And they can go out that way. So if your opponent played this, bada bing, bada boom, it's trapped. Apparently, Eval says that's not dead lost. Ignore that. Takey, you're in pain. You don't have a bishop anymore. What is the proper move there? Why is that not losing? Castle? Oh, it just says the bishop's lost. Have fun, good luck. It doesn't even try and defend it or do anything tricky. And then it's probably bring this out. Yeah. Anyway. So stop doing this. Stop giving like a random check when it doesn't do anything. Here's a not random check. It's white to move. Here's a not random check. This not random, because now you're hampering this knight's movement. Now that bishop's doing something, and maybe they're gonna kick you like this, but you can like take the knight or whatever it is. This is different because your opponent spent time moving that knight, and now you're like preventing that knight from moving. This is painful because the opponent's not going to move the knight into it necessarily. I mean, they might, but I mean, it's just such a solid move to just like move you up on the attack, and they should have taken your thing. Instead, they went for check because they love check. Can't blame them. I love check too. If I were you in this position, what would I do? I guess you have to deal with the queen. You can't, like, would I trade this off? Does it like queen e2? It does like queen e2. I don't know. It's just annoying. Don't know if I would have done that. I guess I would like queen e2 just because after this you can take here. This just feels better to me, I guess. Your king feels safer. After you castle. Anyway, you just move the king. What I guess here's what I don't like about this. What I don't like about this, remember we were talking about like active squares and getting pieces to active squares. Castling is one of the best ways to get your rook to an active square. Otherwise, this rook is going to have a hell of a time getting out of here. So, like, here's one way the rook could get out, right? And you put it somewhere like important or something. Right, that's one way the rook could get out, which costs how many moves is that? 1, 2, 3, right? So that's one way the rook gets out. The other way the rook gets out, 1, 2, 3. Like it's just painful because it takes 3 moves to get it out, whereas castling it would have taken like 1 move to get it out, which is why I would have probably traded this off so I could preserve the castling rights. I feel like this video is much longer than I thought it would be. Are we still good over here? Cool. So check, king moves. I would have preferred to trade the queens off, but that's, I guess you could call it stylistic. He finds the trap there. You're dead. That's a fine enough move. If you're going to lose it, you might as well take a piece on your way out. Sure. This is like one of those very like one move threats to me. Like this is just like you're like, oh, I can attack the queen. I should attack the queen. I guess the knight currently didn't have like a ton of threats. It was kind of taking away this square from the knight. So like this knight couldn't develop to that square, which is nice. In fact, that knight can't move this. Wow, actually, this is really strong. So so by keeping this knight here, we keep our eyes on that square. Oh my gosh, all of this video is just gonna be me not being able to make arrows. I like this. I like the square. All right, maybe my like right click is not working. So for example, if this knight ever moves, then like that, then this piece gets freed up to maybe cause some damage. No, I don't like that. It's not fun anymore. The point is, yeah, never mind. It's fine. It's whatever. Never listen to me. I don't know how to play this game. Okay, now you're just making random attacks. This is what we were talking about, where it's like you're not causing chaos here. Like you're not lining up the pieces and giving him problems. You're just attacking it because you want to attack it. I don't love that, but it's not like a bad move. Okay. One thing I want to highlight is it does because this pawn is no longer pinned to the king. I want to move it, and I want to move it so that we can get this thing going. I love moving pieces out of the way to create my attack. Okay. I don't love this move. I just don't love it. I have nothing else to say. I think it takes it away from being protected by things. And so you might want to like move your rook out under here to protect your queen. Who's to say? Yeah, when you do this, he's going to take your queen because he has to. So that tracks. But you did get a pawn out of it, which is good. You didn't say like, oh, he's going to grab my queen and I like my queen. That was a winning trade because you got a pawn. He had +2 right now, and now he has +1. So good job. And if it wasn't for these 2 pieces threatening the square, you would have a fork there as well. Very nice. Okay, question. Can you find, don't look at that. Can you find the tactic that we studied earlier this video? Winning move here would have been bada bing. We have that protected pawn. And let's take a look at this again. This time there's a knight in the middle, but the basic premise is still the same. We have pieces here and here, and a space in the middle. Give me space in the middle, and it can be attacked just by a pawn. And there's nothing you can do about it. He's going to lose something. Even if he moves it back here, you're losing that. Big set for you. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on two pieces which are on the same. Give me an arrow. On the same rank, 1 square apart. You can put your pawn. Okay. You didn't do that. You checked the king. Love check. Great move. Rook is trapped. Can't go anywhere. Nom nom. You can still do this, by the way. Still an option. Takes. We check the king. King goes up. Are you trying to activate your rook? Yay! Great move. Great move. Okay. You guarded the pawn there, which I understand the desire to do that. I think it would have been better to pin the knight to the king first. Basically, threatening something like this. You're threatening that. It's obviously, it doesn't happen, but you're threatening this idea of like, oh, the king is pressured behind this knight, or the knight is behind the knight's in front of the king, and it's pinned, so I can put pressure on it. You've created a threat. And you're creating problems for the opponent. So, bing bang. Good, love this. You're opening this up. That's wonderful. Also, it's just better for the bishop to be opened up like that. Rook comes over here. I would have been tempted almost to play a move like this, and I'll show you why. Is like let's say it goes here, because then this it's check. Then this pawn is free. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to deflect this knight away from protecting the square. So you're moving with tempo so that the knight's like, ah, darn, I have to go somewhere else now, and we're gonna ignore all that. And because he was forced out, you gave him problems. You take his pieces. But again, as per usual, doesn't exactly work in that position. What's the phrase I've been going with? Never listen to anything I say ever. That feels accurate. Take. I have no idea what that move is. Just none. I think he thought it was a sacrifice. I don't know what he was gaining out of it. Bang bang. I would take that. This would have been a better move. Give me the arrow. That would have been a better move. Sometimes you don't see that. It's okay. This, fun fact, this was almost checkmate. Check this out. Watch the eval. You're +7 because you could have taken the rook. Suddenly it goes to zeros, which means it's even. And it was almost checkmate through something very cool. If you went here, this is checkmate because the knight is guarding that square, and the bishop is guarding that square, and the rook is guarding this square. So that would have been pretty cool. Fortunately, you made a better move where you just went here, and it's a draw now, but that's fine. You guys aren't going to see that. Bang bang. That's just not a good move, I guess. I would be tempted to. What is the line? Does the line say rook h1? Oh well, the line sees checkmate, so never mind. There's checkmate on the board, but I didn't see that. I would have been tempted to go here. Threatening to pick this up. If it moved, I think I still would have taken because this looks worse for black. Famously, if you're left with only pawns on the rim, it's a draw. Even if there's like 7-6 pawns here, if the king is right here, the opposing king's right there, it's a draw. So I would have been tempted by this pawn structure. Also, you have this hanging threat here. I would have liked that. Oh, you could even go like here. Too many ideas. None of that happened. But I like this move because it threatens to go through this piece. you're threatening to pick up this knight. If you know, if black just goes here, you're just like, oh, I'm just going to pick up this knight, and then you're piece up. So again, what we see is lining that rook up in such a way where it's attacking another piece. And because you already have pressure on it, you could have potentially won the piece. Anyway, he goes back there. That's all hypothetical. None of that happened. Okay. So I don't like that. This is check. Check is good. What's the eval here? Is this mate in 3 or something? Mate in 4. That's okay. No one saw that. Okay, we're gonna have to refresh with 33. Get too out of hand here. I feel like this has been like an hour. I did not mean for this to be an hour. All right. Rook checks. King goes. I would be tempted to check the king. Check the king. Try and get the king up here. And then come back with the rook. Come back with the rook and take that to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Bang, 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 bang. I'd have been tempted to do that. I really like those double pawns on the side for me, because it seems like deadly. There was a checkmate in there. Ignore that. Oh my gosh! Again with this. This is annoying. I'm sorry. Okay. Instead, you made a 1-move threat on the rook. Don't do that. He's going to see it, or he's going to just counterattack. Sure. Lovely. You move the rook. You take the horsey. It's the horsey for a pawn in check is definitely in your favor. That's kind of painful. You should have done that earlier, but it's okay. Take. I would have been tempted to maybe go here first and threaten the rook, but it's all good. You took it, coming down, making threats on the rook, and from here it's elementary. You got to be a little careful not to stalemate here. But the king, where can the king go? You can't forget about this bishop. That sometimes comes into play. There's the arrow works first. Okay, so king can't go here, 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 here. Okay. So you're pretty much safe. You're not going to necessarily mess it up. Now you got to be a little careful, because right now it looks like the king can only go back and forth between these two squares. So you know, don't go like here or something. Like don't stalemate. But you didn't. You just cleaned it up. Very nicely done. Very clean. Just rows. I'm a little tired right now. I feel like this went on too long. We'll try and keep them shorter, I suppose. But good game. You crushed it. Give me the arrow. Bye-bye. Ah! No, I didn't do it. I thought I was going to stop presenting. Did not stop recording. Okay, bye now.